At my signal, unleash hell.
There you go. There you go. Fair use. Fair use. I got to say it. Yeah, that's going to be very important for myself and my very good friend, Jon from Modern Life Dating. How are you, my friend?
5 a.m.
5 a.m.
5 a.m. in Tokyo, baby.
Work. Now you're the one that's early and I'm the one that's late.
I'm here for the hate comments after the show.
Yeah, I figured as much. Jon actually gave me that clip, and I thought that was well worth the introduction right there. What movies was that from? That was from Goodfellas, right?
Yeah, Goodfellas.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's a good. Well, let me pull that out of there. There we go. It's a good illustration of like what we're going to get into here today. We've talked about this topic on several different occasions, and yes, we are going to talk about Jon's Dark Past program. What do you want to call it? Program, class?
It's a course. It's an educational 2-week long workshop. That's it's a 3-part thing. It is a 3-hour plus long video course that is available for you to watch whenever you want, forever. It is a 10-day, 2-hour a day minimum Zoom training session that goes on. It starts September 1st and ends on September 10th. And it is a 4-month-long text message group coaching program where you can send your text messages, have them read by me, by you, by the squad, who can go in there and say, okay, she's saying this, but she really means this. Pictures of the girls so we can profile her. Pictures of the guys so they can improve their physical appearance, optimize their dating profiles, optimize their Instagrams, the whole 9 yards. And it's a program that starts now and ends in December 31st.
Yeah, cool. And if you guys want to get involved in that, we're going to talk about that a little bit later here today too.
Yeah.
If you want to get involved in that, the registration link is the first one in the description right there. Yes, I'm shilling another class for Jon again, but again, I always audit these classes, and I wanted to get behind this one. Yeah, I know, right? I wanted to get behind this one because I think you're doing something a little bit different with this one. And like you've done some other ones, and I've kind of opted out because it's like been the same kind of thing. But I think this one is a little bit different. And I know you got Troy, and you got Thor, and you got like some of these other guys that are involved in this as well, who are guys that, if they're not the part of the Rule Zero extended family, they're guys that we kind of endorse,
right?
In one way or another. And the reason why I wanted to get behind this is because, as you know, I'm writing a 5th book, and it's on game, and it's on the mechanics of game. It's not a how-to book. It's a why-to book.
Right.
Why does this stuff work? What are the psychological perspectives? What are the mechanics behind this? Because I think that what a lot of people do right now is they see all the techniques and they think, oh, that's just hokey. That's just stupid. Who doesn't know that, right? Like, remember when I was auditing the class for your body language mastery, and I said the same thing. I was like, well, who doesn't know this shit, right? Who doesn't know how to hold a girl's hand, or like, when you're walking, and who doesn't know the body language kind of thing? And these guys, a lot of guys do. This generation doesn't know that. And I think that when a lot of guys encounter what they, I guess, would formerly be called game, they think of it as an act, or they think of it as something that's just sort of like, oh, you're playing a game, you're manipulating, you're fronting, you're trying to be somebody you're not, you're being inauthentic. And essentially what you're doing is you're understanding and practicing those behaviors, but they don't understand the mechanics and the machinations behind those. Like, why would that work? Why would neg hits work? Why would cocky funny work? Why would amuse mastery work? Why? And so that's the book that I will be publishing in September, by the way. There's your announcement for that. We'll go into the mechanics of this. And I really like the fact that you have this course going on right now, because it really kind of dovetails nicely into what I've been writing about and really compiling for the last maybe like 4 or 5 months. So that's why we're doing what we're doing today. And we're going to talk about Dark Triad traits and why like evil is sexy today. I want just so everybody knows, the reason why I used Tom Ellis's picture for the thumbnail of today's show is, of course, because he is the lead character from Lucifer, the show, the hit series Lucifer, on I guess it's on Netflix now. Originally it wasn't. It was originally on
Fox, right?
Like, yeah, Fox, or a commercial show, and it got picked up by Netflix, and it is one of their top rated shows, still is. They are in season 6. I think they might I kept up with it for a little while, and then I kind of dropped off because I got into other things, but I might watch the rest of it. I don't know. I like Tom Ellis as an actor. I think he's fantastic. I think he ought to be the new James Bond, and I don't see why he's not the most obvious choice for that role if Daniel Craig isn't playing it, but that's me. That's none of my business.
Yeah. Well, Daniel Craig's like 51 now. It's time to give up that role.
Yeah,
like, he's been.
Sean Connery probably could have played it at 51, but I'm not sure. Daniel Craig can. But I think Tom Ellis would have been a great choice for that. But back in, I think it was March. I think it was the second time I was out on Fresh and Fit. It was my own like personal interview, or my personal thing where it was just me and Myron and Fresh, and I had mentioned just sort of in passing that I had been watching some of the, I think like season 1, 2, or 3 of Lucifer, and I like it simply because I think it's a fascinating show. But then I sort of like seeing like what the fandom is for Lucifer, and it is almost entirely composed of women who have this just lust affair with not with Tom Ellis so much. I mean, they like him as a person, right? But the character of Lucifer Morningstar. Yeah. Who is the devil, right? Yeah. And so like I'm looking at this, I'm looking at these memes, right? And this is what kind of set me off on wanting to do sort of a Dark Triad show. I'm looking at these memes, and these are like the things you see from like your girlfriends, or the girlfriends throwing memes at each other on Facebook. And a few of these are, I wish I had a relationship like Chloe and Lucifer. And I'm like, I'm looking at this, and there's, it's them, tenderly embracing, and it's very much reminiscent of like, say, the Twilight series kind of thing. It's a vampire. It's the weird, bang me. What is it? Bang me werewolf, love me vampire. Right. That's the dichotomy that goes on there. And then there's like, of course, the 50 Shades of Grey. Now we've got Sex Life on Netflix as well, which I think is the #1 show on Netflix right now, or it was for a little while. But it's that dark, going down the dark path kind of thing, the going down the rabbit hole of like evil, because that's the way to like excitement and satisfaction. And so I'm looking at these memes, and they're, my fantasy, what is it? Relationship goals, right? Chloe and Lucifer Morningstar. I'm like, you do realize this is the devil we're talking about. This is literally Satan from the Bible, right? You do understand that. Oh, it doesn't matter. Like, it's all about the love and the romance and the, I understand it's a fantasy, blah, blah, blah. And so I dug into this a little bit. And of course, we've talked about Dark Triad personalities, traits, and why they're attractive before. I think we did on Rule 0 once or twice, maybe. I don't think we have sort of like delved into it in any kind of detail, but I did a little bit of homework for today's show, but I think I'll just start off with this, is like, why do you think Satan is attractive? Oh, Grandmaster of the Jedi arts. Oh, well, Sith Lord. I have to ask a Sith Lord, why is it that women want your dark energy?
I feel like I'm on the Jedi Council, but I haven't been given the rank of master. Yeah. There's an Anakin joke. There's an Anakin joke for all you guys out there. No, I quite frankly, I just think that women have to be more sinister in their day-to-day lives as a survival mechanism because they don't have the brute strength that us men have. And when they see the brute strength of a man mixed with the sinister manipulation and evil that a lot of it's depicted in these like kind of Draculas, you know, the Lokis, the people, Lucifer characters, right? All of these like traditionally evil bad guys, like Negan. You know, Negan's like remember Negan from The Walking Dead? Very, very masculine, very evil, but also like a little sexy, a little seductive, a little satanic, a little. He's got a little swagger to him, a little bit of femininity to the way he handles himself, like a pimp almost, right? And I think that girls, to an extent, really relish in that power because they look at a guy and they're like, you know, you do things so brutally, but if you just had this little bit more finesse, like, you know, like girls have, they see it as like this perfect combo. I think it's a mixture of it's the power they can see themselves wielding, and B, more so they understand like this guy is just a very powerful, evil, bad individual. And I think I think women look at a bad guy and an evil guy as more powerful than like a good guy, right? I
Right
think
now,
like
for sure. Yeah.
yeah, and then I think you like take the Hollywood Captain America, like, you know, facade away. When it comes down to the hardcore reality of life, I think girls see evil guys as more strong than good guys who even hold themselves back. And girls, at the end of the day, girls just want a powerful man. They want the most powerful man that can protect them. And they are so full of themselves with female solipsism that they want like this guy to be a harsh monster to the world and come home and be like, let's look at these flowers together.
I'm the only one that can tame the savage beast. You're Satan, I know, but only and that's literally what goes on in the show. Like,
dude,
like
you know one of
the one that makes him vulnerable.
You know, one of the most popular Disney stories in Japan is
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yes,
Because they see this big, terrifying man. Japanese guys are pussies for the most part. And they see like this big, terrifying beast. And then the woman is able to like tame him. And then these girls love it, man. I can't tell you how many times I've been out with girls and I hear them when they're with me.
They're singing the song to themselves. Dude, it's not Frozen. It's like from Beauty and the Beast.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, these girls, they are really, really sold on this Beauty and the Beast thing. It's Beauty and the Beast, and they love Ariel the Little Mermaid when she sings A Whole New World, because like, you know, Japan is like so xenophobic and like isolated from the world. They like go out into the world like, oh my god, there's a whole other world out here, but they eat with forks and not chopsticks.
How Western. Yes, I totally agree. And that's funny you should say that, because I think that there is an innate kind of almost like species level hindbrain, lizard brain connection that women have with guys who have a capacity for violence. And who has the most capacity for violence is the bad guy, the black hat guy, the guy who is not, you don't want to mess with him. You know, he's bad news kind of guy. And there is, especially I think in a gynocentric social, or, you know, feminine primary world, in girl world, right? Women believe that it's still going to be okay. It's Dalrock used to refer to this as the roller coaster, right? Women want to get on this roller coaster and be sure that they're going to die, right? They want the experience to be so realistic and so dangerous that just, you know, that it tricks the mind, right? That's what they really want. They want Lucifer Morningstar, right? They want the bad guy. They want the guy who has the really high capacity for violence. And in some cases, women, you know, especially when it comes to like things like hybristophilia, which is, you know, women loving on guys who are convicted felons, and in most cases, like, you know, convicted murderers. The reason why they fall in love with those guys, and the reason why federal prisons have to keep the female, you know, guards from the male population, is because they fall in love with those guys, because they have that sort of primal capacity for violence, and they've proven it, because that's why they're in jail in the first place. But it's that idea, I think, that they're on this roller coaster, but they know that they're safe. right? At any moment, they want to feel the car like careening out of control. And then at the very last moment, the parachute deploys, right? And then everything is okay, or there's men behind the scenes that are going to make sure that they're going to be safe and sound as a result of that. And so then they can enjoy themselves in fantasies like Twilight, like 50 Shades of Grey, right? 50 Shades of Grey was, of course, as you know, I've talked about this for a long time. This is in my 4th book. It's like one of the most popular books in the history of books, right? Written by a fan fiction author who self-published. So it's not like it was foisted upon women. It's not like this was a social convention. This is what women sought out. It was word of mouth.
The artist formerly known as Miss MLD, right?
Mm-hmm.
She lives out in the countryside of Japan. Okay, like I'm talking like you have to take from the nearest main city is Osaka. From Osaka to take a train, it's about an hour and a half to get to where she lives. And then from her station, she has to ride her bicycle 20 minutes to get to her home, which is in the literal middle of a rice field. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a copy of 50 Shades of Grey translated into Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
That shows it's a female nature. They like, there's a comedian that said, 50 Shades of Grey would be like a CSI episode if the guy was doing it in a trailer park. But because he's like super rich and like a multi-jillionaire, it's all of a sudden it's a massive love story and like every woman's fantasy. But if this guy was doing it at like the Motel Inn, they'd be like, on this episode of CSI.
You're a sex trafficker at that point, right? There's a difference between Lucifer Morningstar and a sex trafficker. I mean, it's the same energy. It's just one guy is this sort of couch surfing bum, at least perceptually, and then there's the guy who has lots and lots of money and is debonair and is still evil and still has a capacity for violence. It's just that he has power and control, and that's actually part of the Dark Triad traits, which I will talk about here in just a second. But I do want to get to this actually. Tilly had a really good one here. Is unrestrained hypergamy natural and great for the human species, and is socially enforced monogamy regressive? Is feminism positive for our species? I would argue that feminism is is unnatural. Okay. Now that before I get into this, what you're making what's called a naturalistic fallacy right here. What is natural is not necessarily always what is good. Okay. So remember that there are, pathogens are natural, but they're not actually very good for, for living organisms. So there's a lot of, like what is bad and what is good is sort of I hate to be like a moral relativist here, but that's simply how it works. And that's the myth or the fallacy. It's the naturalistic fallacy. And a lot of really kind of, liberal hippy dippy, new agers think that they fall prey to that quite a bit. So remember that when you're analyzing dynamics like natural dynamics, whether it's evo bio, evo psych, anthropology, socio, any of the natural sciences, try to lift your head. You have to be objective about the whole thing, because it's like what is natural is not necessarily always good. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. It just sort of depends on whatever our code of ethics are, what our memes are, our belief sets are. So that's number one. Number two is feminism I think is unnatural with respect to intersexual dynamics. And I'll tell you that the reason why patriarchy has been such a thing for so long is because it is a balanced system, whereas feminism is an imbalanced system. Feminism is premised on a false belief that there is that men and women are just blank slates, and that pretty much everything we know about gender, everything we know about understanding intersexual dynamics is based on, or should be ideally based on, egalitarianism or equalism, if you prefer. People think I use that term incorrectly, so let's just use equalism at this point. And we can empirically prove that social conventions and equalism and egalitarianism are simply not, they're unnatural ways of organizing society, let's just say. Patriarchy on the other hand, and if there was another word for it, I would like androcentrism, maybe that would be better. But I think that patriarchy is a more balanced system, because in an ideal sense, it requires men to have responsibility that tradcons will scream up and down about solving all of the world's problems if men would just take more responsibility. But yet it also was balanced with a commensurate authority in order for that man to effect that responsibility. And so in a feminist gynocentric social order, that authority is removed from that guy. They still want old order 20th century memes and responsibilities and rules to apply to men, but they still want new order privileges and authority in 2021. So that right there is that would be my answer to that. The other thing I would say is that is hypergamy natural and great for the human species? Yes, it is natural. Unfettered hypergamy is it is what it is, right? We've had social conventions and buffers that have put let's just say a buffer, right, on the worst aspects or the worst consequences of hypergamy, as well as the worst consequences of men and their innate sexual strategy, which is unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. There are balances. There were checks and balances. Those checks and balances no longer exist in feminism, and they do not exist in gynocentrism. That is why feminism is imbalanced. So that's my take on it.
I'll say this too. In regards to these guys' perception of hypergamy, okay, what a lot of guys think hypergamy is and what it really is are two different things. Guys think like girls wake up out of bed like, time to bag me an alpha. Like, even if they have like a guy who's like 6'2", like, I need a guy that's 6'3". Women aren't like that. Women are risk averse, and the number one thing they are risk averse with, unless they're mentally traumatized, which a lot of women are traumatized in America these days, is to risk their body to go out and try to gamble and find a new guy, because every dick they take gets them more trauma. It gives them more baggage to take to the next relationship. And guys just think that these girls are just waking up out of bed like, oh, I'm ready to fucking go get some new dick today. Like, they're not ambitious like men. Like, you're thinking about women from an ambitious male perspective.
There's a difference between ambitiousness, I guess, if that's a word, and opportunistic.
Yes.
If something drops in your lap, you can be opportunistic about what drops in your lap. To go get something to drop in your lap would make you ambitious to go and do so.
And to top it off, like, typically these monkey branching stories you hear when one girl goes from one guy to another, what they leave out of the story is like the compounding beta mistakes the guy has been making for months and months and years and years. Women put up with a lot of shit. They give you, if they like you, they give you a lot of rope to hang yourself with. But once you have enough rope, believe you me, she will fucking hang you at high noon. So, I mean, I think that's just a misconception. A lot of guys think like, girls are just waking up like, oh, I'm like, time to find me a super alpha today. And it's completely wrong. That's 1,000% wrong.
Malice and forethought. That's really what it boils down to. I have an essay about that, actually. I believe it was called like Purpose and Intent or something. The reason I wrote it is because I had so many guys asking me, like, once I started breaking down like the at least my definition anyways of what hypergamy was, right? Alpha seed, beta need. Once I started getting into that, a lot of guys, of course, took the really dark path, right? Oh, I'll never, they're just evil and manipulative. And that's, I think that is a common misperception right now in what's left of this shit stew that's become the manosphere, right?
Don't associate me with that.
Yeah, right. I know. And so when I wrote, what was it? Ego and Intent, I think is what the name of the title is. I'll look it up if you guys really want to read it. But people asked me, said, are women intentionally like this? Is this malice and forethought? Are they like actually putting the thought to go and do all this, to be hypergamous, right? Oh, are they? And I think even a lot of women have criticized me about that too. Oh, not all women are evil, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying all men are evil or all women are evil. I mean, that's a judgment call. You can tell me who's evil and who's not based on individual instances of all that. But I have said this before, again, the naturalistic fallacy. Hypergamy is not evil and it's not good. It just is what it is. It's just the most practical, pragmatic outcome for women, for female humans to, base their sexual strategy on. Is it good? Are they thinking about it? Are they intent on that? Well, let's go back to what we just said a minute ago. Why is it that women want to get with Lucifer? Why is it that they want to bang the devil, right? Remember what I said about like cognitive dissonance? I think you and I have discussed this before, how like women have no trouble with cognitive dissonance, and especially if one of those cognitively dissonant concepts that's competing for sort of like headspace inside a woman. If either one of those can lead to an optimized hypergamy, they have no problem whatsoever with that. Is that evil or is that good? Is that duplicity or is that simple pragmatism for a woman wanting to reproduce with the best guy that she can? And yeah, if you're hypergamy is good or it is evil based on what end of the stick you get. Are you on the sharp end? Then yeah, it's probably, you probably think it's horrible and evil. Has it worked in your favor over the course of most of your life? Then maybe it's a good thing, right? Maybe you've been able to leverage that. Again, judgment calls. I'm not making judgment calls. I just hold up a mirror, man. We just work here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think another thing too, like when it comes down to the hypergamy, I think a lot of guys don't realize how ruthless these chicks will be, because at the end of the day, they are terrified for their own security. I mean, that's why we see it happen time and time again, right? The fucking Germans invade France. Who do the French women go to? Fucking Nazis.
Yep.
American come in there, start breaking some. Yeah. Americans come in there, start filleting them up like sauerkraut. Guess who they all run to? They run to the Americans.
Suddenly the Yankees are sexy now. Yeah.
It's just female nature, dude. And like, think about it. If a gang of people came up on your woman right now, you there listening at home, and they whooped you up and killed you, you think your woman's gonna be like, I'm ready to die for my man's honor? Like, maybe a few would, but you think a lot of them won't be like, well, put up those pigtails and be like, don't fucking kill me. I can make great French toast.
Yes. And I think that I did a show, and I did a show with Pat Campbell, and the premise of that show was actually one of the most popular shows I did with Pat Campbell on this channel. Was called "Can You Trust Women?" Right? And of course, everybody in the chat was just throwing rocks at each other, right? Not necessarily me and Pat. It was this back and forth that was going on in the chat, right? And at the end of that show, I go, here's the bottom line. You can trust women to be women, to do what women do, right? Act accordingly, plan ahead, like, how are you going to leverage that for yourself? How are you going to protect yourself from the worst aspects of that? And how are you going to be able to leverage yourself for the best aspects of that? And I think that's where a lot of people sort of, again, lose the narrative, because they get caught in this, stupid team sports, or they get caught, oh, well, I'm an alpha. No, you're not an alpha. I'm an alpha. I'm a high value guy. No, you're a low value guy. I love, because no high value guy would do what you're doing. Like, and it's just this jockeying for, like, it's jockeying from within male dominance hierarchies at that point. But again, remember, who's the arbiter of this? Who is the one that is deciding who's going to be reproducing and who doesn't? And historically, that's been women. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They, and I think that's why ultimately they think evil is sexy, because it's a survival mechanism, like, look, let's look. I love the character of Negan. I don't know. And I know I sound like a mainstream normie saying that. Yeah, I know. I hate it. I've never watched Game of Thrones. I just refuse to get to that level of normiedom. But like, when I saw Negan bust open that Korean kid's head, I was like, fuck yeah, that was awesome. And he killed the redheaded military guy too, and then he's just this like just sinister, his evil and his swagger, and he's like almost like talking to them in like a seductive manner before he kills them. And it's not a surprise that in the story, whoever wrote him very well, and this actor did a great job portraying him. He goes around pimping all the colonies. Hey, you got your fucking protection money, right? Because I'm here, and I'm here to take some of your women too. Like, he had multiple women, right? He had multiple sources of income, and he ruled with an iron fist, man. If you don't think that's sexy, you don't think that's how things went down back in the day, and that guy didn't have a brothel of women waiting for him, right? You don't know life, man. You don't know life.
That's because it resonates with what we understand, I think, like on an instinctive level of what human nature is really like. I think, honestly, and again, I'm gonna plug the book "The Ape That Understood the Universe" by Steve Stuart Williams. Honestly, I think that there one of the reasons why we have archetypes, or the reason why we say, like, for instance, I mean, we're talking about one right now, like Dark Triad, personality types. That's an archetype. That's a human archetype. When I talk about, like, the differences between, like, say, an alpha that is like Captain America and an alpha that is Iron Man. They're both alpha, but they're alpha in different ways. One of them
Mm-mm-mm.
is the upstanding guy who's the good guy, who's probably a good bet for women in the long term. He'd probably be a good provider, protector, and parentally invested. He'd probably be that guy who she would want to, to marry and spend the rest of her life with. But Iron Man's the guy she wants to nail. Iron Man is the guy who has, and again, still has a lot of money, still has a lot of control, still has a lot of power over the direction of his own life. And that is sexy to women because women want to be associated with the fact that this guy will hopefully, because she has some superpowers, some feminine, wiles to tame the savage beast. And you also see that happen like in Iron Man and even in Batman and where it's the sort of like a lot of guys want to refer to this guy as like the Sigma male. Get that out of your head right now. There
Sigma
are
male
other,
is for nerds on the internet who made that
exactly.
shit up.
There are differences between, like there are contextual differences between guys who are like quote unquote alpha like Superman versus alpha who like Batman. And so those are the Dark Knight, the vigilante is different than the guy who's the good guy for truth, justice, and the American way. Both alpha, and both are attractive depending on what the necessity, the most immediate necessity of that woman happens to be. So when you talk to a woman who is 29 to 31 years old in her epiphany phase, Captain America is probably the best alpha she could probably get with. If you talk to that girl when she's 22, 23, Iron Man's probably at the top of that list because there's just that's the archetype. So this is I think is an instinctual understanding of what's attractive, what's arousing versus what's arousing versus what's attractive. And of course it goes dependent upon what are the most immediate needs of that woman. A lot of guys will say this, and I think you're accurate in saying this, is that the only reason we have feminism or the only reason we have a gynocentric social order right now is because we can afford to. Because men have made it so easy for women that we've said, okay, guess what? We've created this entire world for you. You're in control of it. You're here. You be the more powerful. You're G.I. Jane, right? You're the warrior princess now, and you can indulge in these fantasies. And don't worry, the roller coaster won't go off the tracks. The roller coaster, like the car won't actually careen off the freeway. The parachute will deploy at the last minute because we've already set it up for you, so you don't have to worry about that. Women believe that that is the reality rather than, having to actually understand what the real world is like. And once we can't afford that, and once we get to a point in whatever our environment is more uncertain or more chaotic, the less you will see women talking about feminism. You will see them leaning more towards one archetype or the other archetype.
You want to hear a funny story about Sigma males?
Sure. Yes, I do. I do.
So I made a fake Japanese girl account on Seeking Arrangement in Tokyo, right? To as a learning experiment for the guys in my community, and it was called like Bitcoin Kawaii Girl, right? Which means like Bitcoin cute girl, and some dorky Singaporean speaking Asian guy was like going in depths and telling me about the power of Sigma male nature. And I was just like, wow, sounds so strong, like just kind of feeding his necessary ego, feeding his very hungry ego. And it was just hilarious. I was just like looking at this guy. I'm like, this is the kind of guy that believes in the Sigma male. Like this basically Sigma male is like a beta male who knows what it takes to be an alpha male, but refuses to do the work.
So, yeah. and honestly, I think that one of the appeal of the actually misunderstanding, I should say, of the Sigma male. And by the way, Sigma male is part of sociosexual hierarchies that Vox Day really kind of came up with when we're talking about alpha, beta, delta, gamma, omega, and sigma was supposed to exist outside of that, right? He's the Dark Triad alpha, right? Everybody doesn't want to be part of the system. So I'm not a delta. I'm actually a secret sigma. No, you're not. You're really. In fact, if you're saying you are, you aren't.
You're okay.
Yeah. If you even admit you're trying to self-identify like that, you're not. I'll tell you right now, you're not. Because the guys who are really literally that guy, like the James Dean, the Maverick alpha guy, that doesn't even enter into their heads. Remember I told you about the Alpha Buddha?
Yeah.
That never popped into his brain. I think I'm a Sigma. I think I'm the Alpha Buddha. That because they're too busy being and that they're existing and being. And I know it sounds Zen, but that's why I call them the Alpha Buddha, right? Because it's so alpha that they're unaware of their own alphaness. Get it? So, Telly, again, thanks for your $1.79 or your £1.79. Is the top 20% of guys the enemy of the bottom 80%?
Yes.
Do you think so? I'll let you talk about that. I think it is relative. I think it depends on what the social situation, the environment is. But go ahead.
I'll just say, look at what just happened with Fresh and Fit. Look at all the fucking worms that came out of the trash can to try and tear them down once they had a moment of weakness. I'm not going to say his name, but somebody came out of his little slumber, left his crown at home, but he came out of his YouTube slumber to trash them. Right. And, you have all these dirty little worms coming out who are literally in the bottom 80% of society, doing their best to trash those guys.
Tear down who they think is higher above them.
Who they know is higher above them.
Yeah. And I think what's funny is like people are throwing links at me right now saying, did you see this? Did you see this? I'm looking at like content creators, right? Well, I didn't even know existed like a week ago. And suddenly they're like these like forensic experts on the entire situation and everything that went on. Like, you guys have no clue what you're talking about. Like, you and I know what's going on. Like, we're behind the scenes. We see I knew stuff before people knew stuff. And I was really like waiting for people to like start throwing rocks. And I knew they would, and they still are. They're still milking that dead cow at this point. And people want to say, "Oh yeah, you're biased. You're on top of you're what is it? You're too close, right? You're they're part of the family, whatever." And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to throw Fresh and Fit under the bus. Yeah, they fucked up. They did. They fucked up, and they know that. And I told them that from the very beginning. And if anybody took even 5 minutes to watch the first part of the video that I did about it, a week ago Wednesday. If you even took the problem I have right now is like people instantly think that if you are in any way like being pro this team or that team, that's just where your allegiances lie, because everybody wants to be in this sort of team, this team sports mentality, and they don't take the time. They're intellectually lethargic, right? They don't take the time to actually watch what you said. They don't have time for that. Because why? There's like, 3 dozen other content creators that back up what they wanted, believing the worst about what's going on. And they simply don't know. They're just there to get eyes on the screen with red meat. And they still are doing that right now. Yep. But I will tell you this right now. And if you haven't seen that video and you didn't take the 7 minutes of, the introduction of that video, I took those guys to the woodshed. Mm-hmm. And I think that you did too. And we both did when we were doing the play-by-play thing, when we did the companion episode on your show. Yep. And yeah, they fucked up. But I think there's a lot to unpack in all of this. Because what you were saying before I'll answer the question. Is the 80% guys, the 80%ers, are they the enemy of the 20%ers? Generally, from an evolutionary perspective, yes, they are, because the 20%ers are the ones who are going to send their genes on into perpetuity, right? That's the nuts and bolts of it. That's the ultimate cause. The proximate cause is that these guys form coalitions to tear down an alpha male. That's what they do. And again, I can't believe he said Maro's an alpha male. He's not an alpha male. I'm an alpha male. That's not the point. The point is, again, the
alpha male wouldn't act like that.
The abstract, because I'm an alpha male and I would never act like that. It's whatever you identify makes you the alpha, right? It's the abstract term. Okay, so give me the definition of what you think an alpha is, or and is it Batman? Is it Superman? Is it Myron? Is it, Abba? Who is the alpha in all of this, right? It's whoever you happen to identify with, and whoever happens to have the same, closely identifies with whatever your belief sets happen to be at that time. Yes, in primate societies, from macaque monkeys all the way up to chimps and silverback gorillas, beta males form coalitions to tear down the dominant alpha of that group, because that alpha is doing all of the reproduction. Mm-hmm. And even if that's not the case, your hindbrain perceptually believes that is the case. That's why when the guy who is the alpha male and has the capacity for violence, he seems like a bully. The reason why he's a bully is because it breaks up those coalitions, because it stops you guys from forming an army to tear him down. And then what happens, of course, is from the 80% who just tore down that rival alpha, the one who's the most dominant and the biggest asshole from amongst those 80%ers, he becomes the new asshole. He becomes the new alpha male, and the process repeats again. So are they enemies? Well, I'm not going to say that they're not enemies, but I'm going to say that there is a need for both, right? The guys who are, you want to know why the human species is I told Aaron Clary this is, let's say, relatively intelligent, is because the 80%ers had to figure out ways to reproduce that didn't have anything to do with what the 20%ers were having to do. So they created technology, they created civilization, they created memes, they created stories, they created religion, they created social dynamics, they created everything that you know right now in some way can be traced back to some beta male somewhere trying to do an end run and around hypergamy and solve his reproductive problem, directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just that shows going to your 80 versus 20. I think it's like kind of the rule of, winners hate losers and losers hate winners, and it's just like it's like an everlasting struggle. And I think that a lot of these beta dudes that they go the alternative route because they have to go the alternative route. They have to like invent electricity and the internet and like Facebook and stuff so they can get some access to women. I think that a lot of guys don't seem to realize this in the manosphere, but there's like these guys that all they can do is get pussy, right? But then these guys end up 45 years old, broke, no skills, no talents. They've just been working from oil rig to oil rig, or they've been going from construction site to construction site, living off this false sense of achievement. Because when you fuck a new girl, right, especially when you raw dog her, your brain is like, yes, you have won. Like you get a feeling of accomplishment. You're just like, you feel like you've accomplished something, and it kind of like turns off the other part of your brain that's like, yeah, you should probably get financially set, have a good career, think about the longevity. It's like a hot girl that's like a stripper her whole life,
Yeah.
Like she doesn't really think about the longevity of it. Same thing with the guys who just continuously go through life and they get a lot of sex and it's fun, but they're alpha losers later in their life. They have no money, they have no finances, they have no income streams, they have no property, they have nothing. All they have is like this tale of endless ejaculations. And it's cool, it feels fun at the moment, but the reality is it doesn't pay the bills. And it's actually negative ROI. Like that's why I always say on my show, make money, make muscles, learn game. It's the big three, because a lot of these guys too, they party, they drink alcohol, they do drugs and stuff, and they just live that rock star 20s through their 30s and through their 40s, and they drop dead at like 53, like $40,000, $50,000, $70,000 in debt, if not more. And then that's their legacy, So you don't really want to go down that path. You want to be a well-balanced person, but I can understand why, they go through it. That they're like the top 20%, because a lot of guys in life, more guys than not want sex, right? Yeah. More guys want sex than guys that don't, right? Who clearly have access to it, like me and the other people. And when you don't really have to work for it, you have to discipline yourself in other ways to like, sit down and be like, okay, like, yeah, I can bang a bunch of hoes, but I'm still like, this is a conversation I had myself when I was like turned 33. I was like 32. I was like, I can bang all these hoes, but like, I'm still a fucking English teacher. Like I got to get some shit going. I got to like be serious about my business and like leverage the fact that I know how to bang a lot of girls and start a business off of it.
Yep. I want to I want to sort of dig into what are actually the Dark Triad traits. So the Dark Triad traits are this: psychopathy, Michavialism, and narcissism. Those are the three. I think narcissism is probably the most self-explanatory, but I think I'll dig into some of these. Psychopathy. Most researchers consider psychopathy a trait characterized by a lack of empathy and remorse. To be the darkest of the Dark Triad, insofar as psychopaths generally cause more harm to individuals and to society than do narcissists or high Macs or high Machiavellians. Psychopath not a mental health diagnosis. The disorder that most closely represents in the DSM is antisocial personality disorder. So, people were asking in the chat here just a minute ago, have you read was it the psychopath one? The psychopathic mind? I forget what the
Wisdom of Psychopaths. That was my.
Right.
Have you?
No, I have not, but I have read The Psychopath Next Door, which is interesting to me because it's a let's say an exploration into the idea that everybody is a psychopath to some degree, like to a greater degree or a lesser degree, like because it's a measure, I think, or there's the idea is this. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm just saying that this is the theory, is that the metric of your self-interest can be based on sort of a spectrum, and I don't mean like the Asperger's syndrome or anything. It's like a spectrum of psychopathy. So low psychopaths are like very, very much altruistic. High psychopaths tend to be like psychopathic killers, right? Like they don't Jeffrey Dahmer, right? That's a psychopath, right? So it's kind of like what is the benchmark, right? Is it altruism to the point where you're willing to give up your life for your family and friends or whatever, versus because that's essentially a metric of self-interest? Or are you psychopathic to the point where you don't care about anybody else? Friends and family be damned. You're gonna go and do whatever you're gonna do. So I found that book was really interesting. I realized it was written by a woman who was probably not the best I don't know, I guess ambassador for the idea, but I think the idea is interesting in that self-interest can be measured on a scale of psychopathy. Sorry, what was the with the book that you're reading?
My good friend Laurent, he's like he is a baller, dude. I met him through your community. He found me on your channel. He's in Tokyo. And he recommended this book to me. I haven't read it yet, but he was basically giving me the TLDR. It's on my Audible. It's funny that somebody mentioned that, but yeah, he is saying that there's degrees of psychopathy, and I think going back to what you were just stating there, I think why women find this trait sexy in men is it because, like, again, it always goes back to the fucking woman, right? Because if you can like out selfish her, she's like, what the fuck? Like, how do you ever, how is this
establishing the frame at that point? Yeah. I would almost argue that psychopaths almost have like a rock solid frame, because no one can get like a full on like psychotic, like psychopath, right? You are definitely all about you. So the mental point of origin, you got it. Yeah. To the point where it's like, when I've talked about enlightened self-interest, I always say this. It's like that the idea or the philosophy or however you want to say it, the idea of enlightened self-interest is I can't help others until I can help myself. I can't help others as well as when I help myself first, and then I can help you. The psychopath never gets to the help others part of I'm going to help myself. And that's why I always say you need to remember that. Like when I've talked about or tried to clarify what I mean by mental point of origin, I always include enlightened self-interest, because it's like, when the stewardess tells you to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you go in and help the old lady or the kid that's sitting next to you, because if you don't, you die and they die. So what's in your best interest in that survival situation is that you get the oxygen first, so you can help little Johnny there, so he doesn't die too. That's the logic or the pragmatism of that. And I think that can be sort of applied to greater concepts. But at the end result, though, is you're still helping other people. You're not a selfish prick. And I think that's what gets lost in the narrative there is a lot of guys think, oh, I got to think about me. I got to make me number one. I got to be a selfish son of a bitch. No. But you got to at least harness the energy of the selfish son of a bitch so that you're the first thing that you think about. And then the people who are attached to you or are associated with you, they benefit because you are making good decisions for yourself, that they benefit because they are associated with you, just like your women and just like your children and your dogs and everybody else who is dependent on you to some degree.
Yeah, and like I said, girls, like I think it's like so counterintuitive to their collective nature. You know what I mean? Like we must embrace socialism, right? And
we'll all be secure.
Yeah, you get 33%, and you get 33%, and you get 33%. Even you did 70% of the work. We need to have equality and blah 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 blah. Equality of outcome, right? And when they see a guy that's just like, yeah, no, I'm the man, and this is going to be my way or the highway, and the sheer power to be like, yeah, and if you don't like it, I mean, I'm just gonna leave you and or replace you. You know, the audacity of it, it spikes their emotion, it gets their vaginas wet, it turns them on. It's because it especially now more than ever, when the average guy is a doormat, right? When she's like, well, tell me about yourself. Well, definitely, you know, Black Lives Matter, and believe all women, and Harvey Weinstein's a pig, and you know, trans lives matter too. Definitely Black trans lives matter, and you're strong and independent, and yeah, I think you should do everything, and there should be 50% CEOs that are women and men, and yes, women are oppressed. And then when you're just like, no, I just think of myself, and I think you're fucking dumb, you know, like you stand out even more in 2021. You know what I mean? When you like, because girls know the script too.
Pattern recognition.
They know the script. You know, when you see all these girls on, like, when they try to like get them like aha moments on Fox News, or like, you know, these like, you know, like, hey, do you support trans lives? Yes. Do you support Islam? Yes. Well, Islam doesn't agree with trans lives. What do you feel about that? Can you turn off the camera?
Cognitive dissonance. Error.
But they know the script. They know what they have to say. So when you're a guy who goes along with the script, she's like, look at this fucking pussy. You know, and when you stand out, she's like, oh shit, this motherfucker has some balls. Like, well, what else he has to say, right? And when you're over the top, and you're like really into yourself, and really just all about you, you know, it turns them on, because that selfishness is rare. And also, she thinks, oh shit, if I can get in his good graces, I can use this selfishness to protect me as well. I
can attach my cart to his horse, is essentially what it comes back down to. Yeah, I think that having that self-interest, or it implies ambition, of course. And what the other thing is that then maybe in a hindbrain understanding, you know, for women, is when you see a guy who is not accommodating, who is not agreeable with women, it is usually because that guy has access to other women. It's because he has other options. A lot of guys will say, well, you know, how do I get to be confident? You know, women say they want a confident guy. Yeah, that confident guy is self-important. That confident guy is is low on the agreeableness side of things, because, and you could say, well, if he's low on agreeableness, he must be high on psychopathy, which is like a false dichotomy. But still, that's the presumption, is that if the guy is self-important, he's self-important because he's been rewarded for being self-important in the past. When we talk about like guys who are quote unquote naturals with women, it's not that they're naturals, it's that they were rewarded for having an advantage earlier on, and they learned or their personalities evolved as a result of being rewarded early on. They learned social skills that beta males are still, even today, are still learning, you know, later on in life. That's why you're this sort of sexless virgin, and you're upset that Chad can go bang Stacy, right? And so when that guy is rewarded for, you know, having figured that out, even if it's just organically figuring it out, you want to talk about, you know, enemies, the 80%ers and the 20%ers. It's simply because they're still on the path of trying to figure that whole thing out. But that confidence that comes from that guy, or when women describe that alpha male as being confident, like if you go looking at like at Captain America, and you look at Iron Man, those two archetypes, both of them very confident, right? Because they have options, and they behave and they manifest behaviors that telegraph to women that they have options. Even if they say, hey, look, I've got like 10 girls I've got 10 plates that I'm spinning right now, and you're just another one of them. And that's why I tell guys, don't be so over the top and overt with women when it comes to like you being dating non-exclusively, because if you are in fact dating non-exclusively, that behavior is going to manifest in your attitude and your personality anyways. One of the first things that happens to guys when they go from being a fat fuck to getting in shape because they went to the gym and they put in the effort, and then suddenly women start paying attention to them, mainly because they look better, yes, but as a result, they're getting more feminine attention. What does that do to the guy's psyche when he is he still going to be this kind of like nerdy, oh, I don't know what to do? No, because he's getting rewarded with female attention. That changes his behaviors. That changes how he manifests that new confidence, because he knows that he could probably nail this chick. Or if he didn't, there's 3 other girls that said that they wanted to fuck him online somewhere because he looks so good now, right? That changes your personality, and your personality is then manifested in your own behaviors. So when that girl says, "Oh, he's so confident. I just like alpha males because they're confident." No, that confidence comes from the fact that he doesn't care what you think. That's the psychopathy part of it. He doesn't care whether he succeeds with you sexually or not, because he knows that in his past, he's already been rewarded with sex from other women. So he's about him, not about you. You come into his frame. That's the organic frame, right? The people always ask me, how do I get frame? Organically, before there was game or red pill or any of this stuff, you had to actually build a world into which that woman wanted to enter into. The beta male is going to build a different world than the alpha male is going to build. The alpha male is about him. The alpha male has ambition. The alpha male is self-important, maybe a little bit psychopathic. Maybe he has those dark triad traits. We want those guys to behave. We want to lock those guys down. We want them to be more pro-social instead of anti-social. But they're rewarded with sex, and so that behavioral manifestation and the molding of their personality becomes a result of being rewarded with that. So an alpha male behaves like a psychopath because he's self-important. Why? Because he's got this positive feedback loop from women who reward him for that. They can't describe it. You asked a woman, why do you think he's confident? They wouldn't be able to tell you. What. They don't know. They're vibing, man. We just feel it. I just feel it with me.
Yeah. It comes to being like, I think it's 50% nature, 50% nurture. And I think that's why you see a lot of degenerates that are more alpha, just because American society in itself is engineered to like beat the alpha out of you. I don't even want to say the word beat the alpha. I want to say, the rainbow F word, but I can't because it's YouTube. But
they want to psychologically condition it out of generation after generation of young men.
They want to pussy you up, bro. That's what they want to do. And these guys that's why, the guys who are so blue pilled, typically the guys that are blue pilled, it's a luxury to be super blue pilled to an extent, because they grow up in a financially stable environment, a very financially stable home, right? And emotionally stable for the most part, just to believe the comfortable lies, right? This is why you see a lot more like African Americans and people who come from abject poverty are a lot more red pilled because they're more grounded in the truth, right? And this alpha thing is definitely beat out of you in American society, and now to the point like where they're drugging up the little boys with Ritalin and whatnot. God knows what the next level is with what's going on now. But I think that alone like gives that internal alphaness, and then the other half is nurturing it, right? Just like telling them it's okay to be a man. And I think it goes to what you were saying, that like the real problem in America is it's a parenting problem, right? There's a bad, like women don't know how to teach little girls how to be women, and men don't know how to teach their boys how to be boys. And so we're all this kind of like, like non-binary consumerist culture. And then that's why we're losing to a bunch of people in caves in the Middle East, because they're just like fighting for their deep rooted culture. Our culture is Walmart. Our culture is Chipotle. Our culture is fucking Best Buy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Telly had this one to say. He said, if advanced civilization is the end result of the inventions of beta males, how come unfettered hypergamy feminism is not awesome for our species? Well, because it's unfettered. It used to be, because those beta males that helped create that society also created checks and balances on that through social stigmas, through religion. Like whenever women say, "Oh, you're repressing me sexually," the church is so sexually repressive. There's a latent purpose for that. And we're seeing it right now. When you look at like the out of wedlock birth rate, and I'm just, I can point to the United States rates, but even if you like break it down by ethnicity, even it's astronomical from the time that like hormonal birth control was essentially unilaterally given to women. When what we did was we handed over the keys to the castle to women. We said, okay, human reproductive process, which was prior to 1965, was a a premise of compromise, right? The guy had to be responsible and he still had to have authority, but he also was responsible, ideally, was responsible for one man, one woman, right? That's the whole biblical thing. Post-agrarianism, anyways, that was the whole thing. But the guy still had authority and he still had the responsibility for the women or whoever it was he was impregnating. We still have those requirements, those 20th century old order requirements for guys. We say, oh, you need to step up and be a man and do the right thing, right? The only reason that's a right thing is because somewhere along the line in the old order, that made sense. And I would still argue that maybe it still does today. But we're still looking at that at the same time where we want to give women new order authority over men. That's why. So when we look at like, well, shouldn't unfettered hypergamy be a good thing? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if it is, because that's where we're headed right now. We're headed towards a society that is based. We're already there, really. I mean, in a soft sense, I guess, or in an abstract sense, we're already a promiscuous, polyamorous society right now in most Western cultures. We're already there. Women are deciding who they want to bang. Who do they want to bang? The top 20%. Yep. Ask Myron and Fresh, right? Ask these guys who are getting their asses handed to them because they haven't figured that shit out, because they don't realize that woman has unilateral control over the reproductive process. Once the sperm leaves your body, you are effectively powerless. Yep. You still think you have authority, but you don't have authority, particularly when women have the state behind them. So again, beta males are the state. Beta males are the ones who have decided that this is going to be the social context in which we're going to allow women to have power. Yeah. So is hypergamy a good thing? Yeah, it can be. It should be. Ideally, pragmatically, it should be. But it was also that strategy is based on women's reproductive interests or their imperatives. Men's unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. You want to know why porn is free and streaming and 4K and you can get it on demand whenever you want it? That's why. Yeah. Because first of all, it's sedation for you, but it's also, we're satisfying both of the innate sexual strategies of men and women simultaneously. Is it a deficit for men? Yeah, it can be. Absolutely. We're sedating generations of guys with free online streaming porn while simultaneously we're saying, you do what's right for you, girl. That's the social context into which we're putting the thing. And then this was a really good one too. I want to back up here a little bit because Phil put this right before. Women trapping men makes sense in a cold, calculating way. But what I don't get is the woman then not letting the guy see the kid. Is it fear of losing custody, referring to the PJ Washington situation? Do you know the PJ Washington situation?
No, talk to me about that.
Okay, so PJ Washington is, you guys are going to hate me for this because I forget what team he plays on. He's an NBA player, right? And he got with Brittany Renner. And Brittany Renner is this she is just this opportunistic hoe, let's just say, and openly so, writing books about how to be a better hoe, how to be a better opportunistic gold-digging skank.
Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, exactly. So
chat's going wild,
and it's and I actually meant to do, because people asked me if I was going to do a whole show on this, and I was like, I don't know if that's enough material to do a whole show, but I will talk about it here. So what she did essentially is she entrapped this guy PJ Washington, and married him, had the baby, and then what was it, 2 weeks after the baby was born? Now she's divorcing him because he's got a shit ton of money. And now I've got the baby, and she has been on her social media saying, get with a sports star. They're all stupid. Essentially that's what she said. Even the book that she read, I forget the name of the book she wrote, but it's essentially how to be a better gold digging, opportunistic skank, more or less, and how to get yours, because that's just the way you want to talk about psychopathy. You want to talk about dark triad personality traits. She's got them.
But Rollo, he's alpha and he's 6 foot tall. He's got it all figured out.
Right. And Abba and Preach did of course they do a reaction for everything. Right. And of course what they do is they throw rocks at PJ Washington, who is this idealistic guy who probably thought he was going to change her, or probably thought that she wasn't serious about it, or, and then of course there's a child that's in between all of this as well. She don't care. I mean, clearly she don't care. So what we do is we say, well, PJ Washington should have known better, right? He should have known. He should have seen that big pit, and then he stepped in the pit. He should not have done that, right? Well, yeah, I agree. But who dug the pit? Who put spikes in the pit? Who put the baby in the pit? Who's the one who was, we don't want to talk about the person laying the trap. We want to talk about the idiot who fell into the trap instead, because that's an easier analysis. And especially if the one who dug the pit is a woman.
Yeah.
Because women never do anything wrong, right?
No.
She should have it. Well, he shouldn't have put his dick in crazy. Yeah. You know what? And Myron should never have talked to Anna Quinn. Never.
Ever.
That like what on what reality is that like a good idea, right? You want me to take him to the woodshed? This is where I'll take him to the woodshed. That was stupid, right? Especially when you did the breakdown video. And if you haven't seen John's breakdown of the Anna Quinn thing, you go now, like stop watching this and go watch it right now. Because when you look at like what she was trying to do, she's not unlike Brittany Renner in all of this. Like I was like, people asked me about the PJ Washington thing. I go, that is almost identical to what she was trying to do with Myron. Yeah. And I say, well, Myron shouldn't have done that. Yeah, no, he shouldn't have. He was an idiot for doing that. But look at what she tried to do. Oh, I'm going to lose the baby and it's all Myron's fault. I'm going to hold the baby in my arms. It's going to die in my arms. And you know what the baby's going to say? Myron killed me.
Oh God.
That's essentially, that's what she wants. That's the cartoon she wants you to believe. You want to talk about like manipulative, dark triad, psycho. Like I got BPD vibe. Like I got chills when I watched that because that's exactly what my BPD girlfriend would have done. Exactly. And people go, well, you should have known better. Yeah, you should have, but you didn't, and you fell into that trap. But who's setting the trap? She's still setting the trap. So ain't nobody blameless in all of this. You go, well, you should have been a real man. Alpha wouldn't have figured that out. Bullshit. You know, there are a lot of blue pill alphas, you know, being red pill or being blue pill and then being alpha or being beta. And the abstract term is they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. The like I said, you know, just because a guy is 6 foot tall, he has 6-pack abs, he has all these things that like seems like there's more of like a male fantasy with that stuff than there is a female fantasy, to be honest with you. But you know, they just think like, oh yeah, once I have that, like I'm infallible. I can never do wrong and nothing can ever happen to me. And it's just like, no, you actually have to learn to profile these chicks. And you got to think, you know, without your dick, because that's what Myron was doing. Listen, at the end of the day, Myron's black and he saw a white girl with a huge big ass. He was like, all right, game on, baby. With this girl, I could do this, you know?
Yeah. If you want to talk about that for a second, I don't understand why that would even be a concept. Like, why would that even occur to him to be a good idea? Especially when you're like people, you hung out with Myron, I hang out with Myron. They can walk around Miami and they get noticed. People know exactly who they are. He doesn't have to import some girl from California for that shit. Yeah. I'm sure there are plenty of nice looking, actually probably younger, you know, big booty white girls that want to get with him in Miami. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to text them. You just talk to them live right there in person.
Yep. She's a grandma too. I think she's like 38.
Yeah,
you know, he's gonna be rolling that pussy down with a wheelchair soon. And, you know, so but hey, just nobody's perfect, right? But again, like it just tells you, like, you know, he has it all: money, muscles, game, status, all that shit. But it still happens. So just having these physical markers of alphaness are not good enough. You got to no, she's not.
She's not 42. You know who is 42 is Nina Unrated.
Oh, rest in peace.
Another big mistake, right? Who also, by the way, is connected to ABBA. There, all these guys who are coming out of the woodwork right now, just so you guys know, all these guys who are coming out of the woodwork to jump on the corpse, or they think is the corpse of Fresh and Fit, all these guys are connected. Every last one of these guys is connected. We did our homework on this beforehand, and it's like, you know, we can connect the dots. Can I say there was collusion? Not necessarily, but there's a lot of correlation. So yeah, take that however you want to. But when I go and I see that, Nina Unrated is doing a YouTube date with ABBA back on April 3rd, and then starts repeating the same prostitution ought to be legal argument that they made. Yeah, there's probably something going on there. There's probably some sort of, somebody emailed somebody talked to somebody.
Yeah.
Same thing. Should they have? No, they fell in a trap. Yes.
I know self-hating beta when I see one, and that's what I see when I see this Abba guy, like this, like presumptuous, like kind of like, he reminds me of like those smug fucking liberals out in California who are just like, oh, I don't need the patriarchy, and like, oh, you deadlift, wow, it's just like, oh, kill me.
Odin, bless the Father Rollo and the Son John, but don't forget to pray to the Swoley Ghost.
That's right.
And the Swoley Ghost.
So you got psychopathy, and then
let me get the rest of it. There's another one here. Machiavellianism is actually, I think, the most interesting one. Machiavellianism, of course, is after Machiavelli, right? Wrote the quality. Is it the Prince? Yeah, the Quality of the Prince. Niccolo Machiavelli. Machiavellianism is not a mental health diagnosis, once again. Okay, and people want to say this is a personality trait, but it's not a diagnosis. Rather, it's a personality trait describing a manipulative individual who deceives and tricks others to achieve goals. It is based on the political philosophy of the 16th century writer Niccolo Machiavelli. Some evidence suggests that of the Dark Triad traits, Machiavellianism is the most closely tied to high intelligence. If a psychologist refers to someone as high Mach, whatever it is, it means that they behave in a highly manipulative manner. That's the definition anyways. And narcissism, I think, is pretty much self-explained. Actually, I've done full shows on narcissism. Whenever I talk about Meghan Markle, we have the NPD. we talk about narcissism. But it's like there's an intelligence, like a scheming, a planning kind of thing, I guess. I don't necessarily see Machiavellianism as a bad thing. I think it's like it depends on how you use it. A lot of people, I think right now, are saying, the red pill is teaching these guys to be assholes. They're all going to be, dark triad sons of bitches. In fact, here you are having your dark past thing, teaching them how to be assholes, John.
What's the average American girl right now? Is that bitch not an asshole? Is the average girl in America 18 to 25 not a fucking complete dickbag right now?
Yeah.
Even if she's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, watch this. This is a really good one.
That even beautiful women, bad bitches, are single today. It's simple. Feminism. Feminism taught you women that you a queen. You God's gift to this earth. You the prize. No, the fuck you ain't. No, you ain't. You ain't a queen. You ain't never gonna be my queen because you ain't my mother. You don't love me unconditionally. You love me under conditions. And the problem is that I'm a man. I'm a leader. I'm the toxic asshole guy. The tool, right? Because when we go out, right? You expect me to take care of you, right? When we go out, I pay for it. You good. We go to the store. Here, get some shoes. You good. I got you. But when I tell you to do something, do it. That's the problem. Don't expect me to chase you and beg you and get on my knees, bro. I'm not submissive. I'm dominant. And then what happens is, I don't want to be with that. He's toxic. He's bad. Your friends tell you he's a bad guy, right? Then you go be with the nice guy and you end up cheating on him or leaving him because he's weak. He don't make you feel nothing. He don't blow the back.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You're the problem. You're delusional.
I thought this was pretty good. Because like you would talk to, like, if that guy, I think there's sort of an aspect like, okay, let me ask you this. Do you think women get turned on by that TikTok? Or do you think they go, he's a toxic male son of a bitch? Which one which feeling do you think women get when they watch that?
He fucked up when he mentioned his mom, but I would
video.
Yeah, I would say probably more no.
Yeah, why is that?
I feel like they're so just like knee-jerk reaction to, like, it's like a scolding kind of video. So they'll be like, fuck this. I don't fuck this guy. He probably has a small dick. Mm-hmm. Right? What do you think? You think the opposite? You think they get turned on by it?
No, I think that there are probably certain aspects of that. Like, I'm the one who's going to take care of this situation. I'm the one who's going to be like when he says I'm dominant, right? The problem is like when I keep saying this over and over again, it's better to demonstrate than it is to explicate. Never demonstrate, do not explicate. That entire video is explication. Yeah. Like, I'm the dominant guy, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting though, because from an objective perspective, he's right. Right? Women want that dominance. They want that guy who's going to be there, who's going to take care of that. And what he's saying, and in probably not making his case, as well as he could, but what at the end of that video, it sounds like he's complaining. right? And guys they're never allowed to complain. We're never allowed to say, hey, you know what? If I'm going to do all this for you, then you've got to submit to me, right? Well, the guy who says that, the behavior of actually having to verbalize that disqualifies you. You want to know why I say, if you think you're a Sigma male, or if you're trying to explain to me how you're a Sigma male, the fact that the behavior of explaining it to me means you're not a Sigma male, because Sigma wouldn't even occur to that guy.
Sigma males, what a cope.
Yeah. I would argue that one of the reasons why women like evil guys, like convicted murderers, right? Why is hybristophilia a thing? I love it when guys like throw hybristophilia out, or if I go and I point, like, people throw me these stories all the time about some chick who fell in love with a guy who was an inmate, or
was it Hartis?
She fell in love with the guy who killed her brother. wasn't it
Hartis that had like that checklist, and like if you went to prison, like plus 37 points,
plus 10.
Was it Hartis or something?
Yeah. It was trying to like have a metric of like what your sexual market value was.
I'll look it up. Hold on.
If you went to jail, it was like plus 100 or something.
Yeah. Was it alpha calculator?
Yeah. It's I think it's still probably at the top of those tabs on the hartis.org on the archive site of it.
Dating market test, let me see.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that like people would still take seriously, and like contextually anyways, would take it seriously today. But like whenever I see these stories, or somebody throws me the next link on YouTube, or excuse me, on Twitter about hybristophilia, which of course is the idea that, or the psychological disorder, right? Quote unquote disorder that exists primarily amongst women, that they fall in love with their captors. It's kind of like Stockholm syndrome, only it's not Stockholm syndrome. They go looking for a captor. They go looking for the killer. They go looking for the guy who is they want conjugal visits with the guy with Richard Ramirez, right? They want it with Jeffrey Dahmer. They want it with, like, Richard Ramirez had a fan club for like decades, and people women wanted to get with that guy. What? My God, that makes no sense whatsoever. Like, beta male's like, I don't understand that. Yeah, because you're thinking that she's going to think logically and rationally and reasonably. That's not what remember that. You want to know why I always say, if you never appeal to women's reason, if you want to, and God forbid, if you want to bang a woman, if you want to get intimate with a woman, whatever, never reveal the red pill. Never.
Oh God.
It's not, revealing the red pill is not game. In fact, it's anti-game because you're not vibing with that. You're not speaking that emotional language. You're not talking to her in terms of like what is going to turn her on. And how do I know that? Because they fall in love with Richard Ramirez. Because they'll seek that out. And so when people throw this at me, they'll say, well, hybristophilia, that's a mental disorder. Only damaged women have hybristophilia. I go, yeah, but only women get hybristophilia. You don't see guys searching out convicted killing, women to go get their dicks cut off or whatever. They're not looking for that, right? They're looking for the hot girl who's, younger, hotter, tighter, and available, right? Usually women in prison are not available, not readily available anyways. For women, they will remember when I put out the Iron Rules of TOMASSI, number 3. Any sex that you have to wait for, if a woman by her actions implies that you're waiting for sex, or she's making you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait. And now that was the first part of that. And I talked about that with Lauren Southern last week. And, of course, women think that I am suggesting that with that law, that women ought to just be these loose hoes and bang guys, willy-nilly and on the first date and whatever. I'm like, no, that's not what that's about. That's about guys determining genuine desire. If you read the rest of that law, I say this: if a woman wants to bang you, she will find a way to bang you, even if you're in jail, even if you've killed multiple people, even if you're a ISIS warlord in the Middle East somewhere, they will find a way. If that's what they want to get, if that's what they're at, that's where they're going to be. Now, people want to say it's a mental disorder. I disagree. I think it's not a mental disorder. I think it's just a sexual strategy for women who have a complete lack of of men who have a capacity for violence. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be a real unpopular opinion, but I think one of the reasons why there are so many like immigrants in Western Europe right now is because women are sick of the milquetoast men that are in those countries.
Yep.
And when those guys come in, the incidence of rape goes up 1,000% or 1,200% in the course of like 1 year or 2 years. You know, that's the result of it. That's the, you want to talk about is hypergamy a good thing or a bad thing? That seems like a pretty bad thing,
Right.
But it is what it is. That's a result of hypergamy. That's a result of a larger societal side. It's the macro side of hypergamy rather than the micro side. And that's certainly, it is it the whole object reason to bring them there? No, but it's certainly part of that. It's an element of that, I would argue. I have a post called The War Brides of Europe, and I wrote about that when all that crisis was going on. Like Sweden had a spike in rape incident that was like 1,000% more than it was before. I'm like, yeah, of course it is. You know, you invited them in. Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Afi Kingdom
that you're attracted to.
You know, Afi Kingdom's in Africa right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Africa right now, and he's telling me, he's like, there are caravans of white women down here vacationing
because they want dangerous men.
They want, that's what I'm saying. These bitches are getting caravan down there to get some fucking black mamba. But it all goes down to women want a strong man, not a physically strong guy. You have to, that internal savagery. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The fierceness,
yes,
the capacity for violence, the capacity for murder, the capacity for these bad things. You know, that's what they're all about. I got one of these girls I'm dating here in Tokyo. She's Chinese, right?
Mm-hmm.
And naturally, the Japanese people treat her like shit. And you know, she sees me, and I'm like not your typical skinny, dorky Asian dude. I'm you know, I've got a little bit of an attitude about me. She sees me training, you know, lifting weights, doing the MMA stuff and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just, and she feels like she's like a little girl when she's around me. She's like, oh, she's like, I love you. You're so you're like a tough mafia guy. Because when she goes out in her day-to-day life, like, you know, she just has to tolerate getting treated like shit because she's Chinese. Because like the Japanese fucking hate the Chinese, and the Chinese hate the Japanese. Like this is historically verified. We could go into depths of that on another show. But you know, all the other dudes she dated before me were just like complete pussies. You know, this is a little TMI, but she's like, you're the first guy that I let him hit raw on the first date just because I was like so turned on by you. You're so wild. I didn't even care. She's like, every other guy I've made.
Because the prospect of you impregnating her is higher if she does that.
Yeah. We always use a condom, kids.
Leverage it for your own defense. Leverage that for your own caution. So
yeah. But yeah, you know, it's true, man. They want, and that's what I was saying. And we talk about this in the dark past. Now more than ever, okay, everybody thinks the shortcut to getting girls, and even Myron fell for this trap. They think that the shortcut to getting girls is looks, money, status, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the dorks in the black pill community, all these losers who don't get girls but seem to know everything about girls. Mind-blowing as that is, like the guys who complain about getting girls the least seem to be the most vocal on the strategies to get girls, which is hilarious in itself, right? And they don't realize that the greatest X factor now is not looks, money, status.
Mm-hmm.
It's having rock solid internal masculine frame with daddy energy to guide them. When you were on Fresh and Fit and you were sitting next to that stripper, I was doing a commentary. You know what I'm talking about? The one with the piercing on her lip right here.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant
I'm so icy or whatever.
Yeah, the other one. Okay, I know.
Yeah, that one, right? I was doing the companion breakdown, watching her, and did you see how this girl, when you're talking, she's just like, just soaking up the daddy energy, like not like as in you're the father, but like, you know, the natural authoritative energy that you have when you bring to the table, and when you speak with conviction, you speak with authority. You've been doing this for fucking ever. You've been married for 20 something years. You raised a daughter. Like you are the red pill. It's like it's not like a moniker you picked up and you draw some fucking green lines on a JPEG and you're like, I am
the game. I don't play. It's not an act. It's funny you should say that, because like after those shows, I'm almost invariably after those shows, one of those girls, possibly two, comes up to me and go, you're a really smart guy. And they start like wanting to pick my brain and like looking up to me like, you know, teach me something, kind of thing. And I call that, I've talked about this before. It's what's called command presence.
Yes.
And I tend to do that naturally, particularly when I'm around women, because that's what I've done professionally for a long time. Right. I have to be the one directing traffic when it comes to liquor promos, or if I'm directing a commercial or something like, doing something where they need guidance. And people are in the chat are going to say this. Oh, that's being a contextual alpha. Yeah, it is. It is. Absolutely it is. But it's also the dynamic is command presence. If you're in the military, if you're in any kind of law enforcement, you understand the idea and the term behind command presence. And you can apply that to the women that you are working with or encounter, let's just say.
Yeah, but like that, saying now more than ever, your greatest
daddy energy. I like that. Let's go with daddy energy instead. Daddy game.
It's the daddy energy. No, I'm like, it's like, look, these bitches are lost now more than ever. You see it. You probably see other girls that are not well put together and have a solid head on their shoulder like your daughter. And you're like, good Lord, bitch, where is your father and why has he failed you? And I'm guarantee you see that probably every day in America. And now more than ever, these girls are looking for someone to lead them. They're looking for someone to guide them. Why do you think they go to feminism? Feminism is the default open arm thing. Like, come to us and we will teach you how oppressed you are, my child. Who goes to church the most? Women. Why? You got to go. You got to go and be part of this community, this guidance, right? Who are the number one volunteers for PETA? It's women. Who are the number one volunteers in general? I'm not trying to do anything for free, right? But again, women, they're always looking for something to guide them. And it used to be men in our society. Now it's become the government, conglomerates, corporations, and or these fucking things. You ever watch Tiger King? You ever watch the whole thing?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched part of it. I kind of like, what am I doing?
You need to study the biggest pimp on that fucking show, Carol Baskins, bro. Carol Baskins is a ruthless psychopath, Machiavellian, evil bitch, dude. And she gets all these girls working for her cause. And the way she's so good, she's so evil. She's like, you care about baby tigers, don't you? Do you want these tigers to go extinct? No? Then I need you to go clean up 600 pounds of tiger shit. And then I'm going to level you up from
wax off.
she has an orange shirt and then like a brown shirt and then a blue shirt. Like you rank up shirts based upon how many free unworked hours how many free hours you've done for this chick. How much free work have you done? And you get a t-shirt to go clean up, a different colored t-shirt to go clean up tiger shit.
You ever notice that like most cult leaders historically, most cult leaders are men.
Yeah,
it's like if you, David Koresh, right? I watched that thing on Netflix not too long ago. I'm like, guys are like letting this dude bang their wives because they're so wrapped up in it. But it's not a woman that is leading that cult. When Jim Jones, name any famous, Bhagwan Rajneesh, like name any cult leader, even that XXVM thing where they brand the chick, and these were like women who are like supposed to be empowered, and then they've got their the director of HR, wherever the hell they are, they're letting this dude brand them and then have like sex with the guy afterwards. Look at any like cult. Why is it that it's primarily women who follow them and it's primarily a guy who is the leader of that cult?
Because women are dumb. No, I'm just no.
They're looking for a shepherd, right? They're looking. They're looking for an alpha male. Yeah,
it is
psychology.
It's in women's nature to be led by some authoritative figure. All right, and in this situation, it should be you at home listening to us. But guys have been castrated, right? Guy and like the pussification in America has been happening for a long ass time. I know one of these dudes out there who's done some time in the military in Afghanistan, and he knows one of the Taliban fighters, right? One of the Taliban fighters was an English teacher in the elementary school, but he's like, he picked up and joined the Taliban. He's like, why the fuck did you do that? And he's like, simple. I did not want them bringing that American way of living over here and ruining my fucking culture. And he's like, I'm not. So I picked up my AK-47 and I said, fuck, I'm gonna defend my country. And you know, I mean, I'm not trying to make this a military show, but like, you know, you're seeing the history of what happens when people try to invade Afghanistan, right?
Yep.
And it's because they're defending that way of life. And
empires.
Yeah, man. And like these, like I said, where do you see a great exodus of Afghani women?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where are they? Like, where are their movements?
Where are they going? Yeah, none. I think let me tell you something. And this is just a side note here. I think it's when people tell me, well, how dare you, Rollo? How can you say that we live in a gynocentric social order? It's patriarchy. We need to smash the patriarchy. Blah blah blah. There's so many examples of why we live in a gynocentric social order. The most recent one, the best one, was we have spent 20 some odd years in Afghanistan. It was a failed war. It was, what the hell are we doing there in the first place? We've funneled God knows how much money in there, manpower. How many people have died? It's a humanitarian catastrophe. It's like fall of Saigon right now. We're leaving all of this military hardware and personnel and everything else that's going there. And you know what the first concern of the entire fucking world, every first world country, you know what their first concern was? What about the women? What about the girls? What about our women? Yeah. That's the first thing that pops into your head. That's your mental point of origin is women when it comes to this. And that's all they care about. And that's, of course, you know, I realize it's psyops. Okay. Go ahead, give me the comments. I realize it's a public relations kind of thing, but that's the only thing that they can do to distract you from the sad, tragic reality of a 20-year failed screw up. Right. Mm-hmm. And, you know, put us on a war footing through 4 different presidencies. Yeah. It's a monumental disaster. What about women? There you are. You want to know why we live in a gynocentric social order? Look no further. Yeah. And New Zealand, please think about the women. China, go over there and bring them out, right? They don't care about the guys. They don't care about anybody else. They don't care about the military hardware that's been left there. Go get the women and bring them out. And we'll take them here in New Zealand because that's a feminist-run government. Come on, bring them over here, girls.
I got a meme for you that talks about the whole situation, how basically this whole gynocentric order is a short, it's basically it's a game of the corporations. And like it's like Jeff Goldblum said in Jurassic Park,
life finds a way.
Yeah, life will find a way, nature finds a way,
Yeah.
And here we are. Here, let me share this. This is hilarious.
I'll take it.
This is pretty based. Have you seen this meme yet?
I don't know. Do I want to put it on? Yes.
Yeah, it should be okay. You can take a look. Have you seen this?
God, no, I haven't.
Variety of cultures united in a single faith, Islam. Doesn't need to cope. Modesty, content with the Lord has given. Has a chin. Has 4 wives, 19 children. Average IQ 182. Western society. Forced diversity. Drugs and alcohol to cope. OnlyFans. Slut walks. Run by immoral rich families. Consumerism. Has no chin. Wife left him for another man. Low IQ.
God. Yes. That's rough. It's sad, but it's true, right? When you think about trad cons, I mean, if you change the religion, that's pretty much what they want. They just want it with Jesus instead of Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love it.
That's craziness. So as far as I meant to ask you some questions about the dark past stuff. Do you think that the red pill is turning guys into these like negative, like, do you think that the red pill is always necessarily a path to like sort of the black pill? Like guys don't know any better. Like right now, you can take everything that we've discussed here about how women want dark triad guys, and guys will take that to heart and they'll go, yeah, well, if that's the case, then I'm going to be the most dark triad son of a bitch I can possibly be. And again, I have heard this argument since 2004, man. You're turning these guys into assholes. And my response to that has always been, worry less about me turning these guys into assholes, because 90% of the guys who find the red pill, and we don't advertise, right? It's not like they have to find us. It's not like we go hunting for them on recruitment drives, right? They're looking for answers. But the reason why is because they've been nice guys and altruistic and agreeable for most of their lives. I've got a study here that shows agreeableness, the agreeableness personality trait in men is positively associated with negative sexual partners, right? Meaning that the more agreeable you are, the less likely it is that you're going to have sexual partners. That goes completely against what a lot of people want to say is, well, you should focus more on, being a good husband and being a good father and those are pro-social. We need those guys. We need guys to be pro-social. We need them to be invested in family. We need all the stuff that you just showed me in that meme. Yeah, we need guys to be like that. But the problem is we have generation after generation of women who've been rewarded for going and picking up on the guys who are dark triad sons of bitches, who are, hybristophilia, convicted killers. Do you think we're turning guys into assholes? Lauren Southern now accused me of that, by the way. That's why I wanted to ask you.
Of course she did. Fucking grandma she's a mud shark. You know that?
She's 26. I remember. Thank you very much. People, I called her 40 years old. She's actually not 40 years old.
She's 26. Really?
Yeah.
Damn, she looks bad. She should be a little bit looking more younger, but I think that is just posturing on her behalf. I think that it's just making guys more aware. Like I said, dude, we're dating coaches, and dating is banned from Facebook advertising. I don't need to do any kind of ad campaigns to advertise my stuff. Dudes are lining up because they want to learn. I'm shadow banned on my YouTube channel. How many times have been banned off Twitter, Rollo? Like 9 times.
Yeah, you're not coming back to Twitter.
Not coming back.
We have to talk to Signal now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just can't control myself. I'm too based. I'm too based for Twitter. And the red pill is growing. I mean, it's not a coincidence that the Fresh and Fit podcast is. Do you know that at one point they were? I saw this, that they're the #1 super chatted YouTube on the planet.
Really? I didn't know that.
You know who #2 is? Your boy Tim Pool.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why they got all the vultures coming around, and look at that. How long they've not even been operating 1 year.
Yeah, not even. Well,
not 1 year.
7 months. Yeah,
yeah, not even 1 year. Not even 1 year, and #1 super chatted YouTube channel in the planet, right? So when you look at that, you could tell, and I think in men's heart of hearts, they are like looking around. They're like, something's not right. Like I've been lied to, and it's happening at a faster rate. There's an accelerationism with people getting red pilled. The problem is when guys become black pilled is when they become red pilled, they don't take action, and they believe that there is no hope, that there's despair, right? But when you look at like who's putting together all this black pill content, it's dudes that like know how to hack the algorithm and like get to the top of the algorithm and do all this nerdy shit that like guys with a sex life don't know how to do, quite frankly.
Yeah. I Whip Out Warrior, this is actually pretty good here. I'll bring this up. Assholes are exacerbated by the red pill if it doesn't make them into assholes. Yeah, I agree. The guys, when people say, and I've gotten this before. I'm glad you brought that up because this was a topic I wanted to talk about. When I was at I think it was at the 21 convention, I think it was 2018, and Dr. Sean Smith came up to me. He says, "Do you think that these guys should know this stuff? Do you think that they're all guys should know this stuff? Do you think that they should? Some guys just should stay blue pill." Right? Would it be better if they just were ignorant and they didn't know the truth? They're still happy in their ignorance or whatever. And of course, me being the objective realist, I'm like, no, but the truth is, what would you rather be, happy or right? That's pretty much what the question was. And back then I said, you know what? First of all, it's not up to me. It's up to them. Again, because they're the ones that are looking for this. And whether you take me away or you away, everybody gets canceled, everybody gets banned. Guys are waking up even without us right now because they see it, their pattern recognition, right? They see this over and over and over again. So if I die tomorrow, they go and they kill all the red pill people, there'll be other guys who will step up and they'll go, this is not right. This is clearly not working. So you take all the red pill and the manosphere away, people are still waking up and they're still becoming aware. That's #1. #2 is just what this guy was saying, White Pal Warrior here was saying, is it's the guys who are psychotic, the guys who can't, like that black pill kid in Plymouth who went and shot up that way. That guy was going to be that way no matter what. Did it push him over? Was it a catalyst? Might have been. The despondency might have been accelerated as a result of that. But the guys who are going to be like the next Elliot Rodgers, they're going to be that anyways, whether they read my stuff or they read it with, somewhere else. Yeah, it might push them over the edge. It might make them more despondent, but there's nothing I can really do about that. And there's nothing anyone else can really do about that either. Because again, take us away and the awareness is still there. Whether you can say, oh, well, Rollo's, he's radical. I remember this. I remember when that son of a bitch, the lumber cuck, Jack Murphy was saying, oh yeah, I'm worried about radicalizing these guys, and he was red pill before he wasn't red pill. And now he's red pill again because it's the new hotness. And that was one of the things is kind of dovetailed into what Sean Smith was asking. Some of these guys can't handle this. Like, yeah, they can't, but the genie's out of the fucking bottle, man. You're not going to put it back in the bottle. And the people who are like mentally imbalanced, it's not me that's they were that way before. Maybe they are pushed over the edge as a result of that, but there's nothing I can really do about that. How many guys' lives have I saved by putting out my books? Probably a lot more than the people who, in fact, I can guarantee you a lot more than the guys who went nihilistic and despondent and maybe, were radicalized in some way. I see this all the time. Like when people talk, oh, here's the incel movement. The incel movement is not a movement, man. It's just guys getting together and commiserating online. That's what it is. They just have a chat room. They just have a new group. It's not a movement. They're not out there marching in the streets with pink pussy hats on. Militant feminism. Yeah, that's a movement. Incels are not a movement. Black pill is not a movement. Yep. And it's not going to be a movement because what defines it is guys is inaction. That's not doing anything. You win by not doing anything.
Exactly. Like, we talk about some of these, great black pill leaders. They all live at home with their mom, like literally, like, and it's just like, so you're going to tell me how to be a winner in life from what wins. You want to go to a man like you who has a very accomplished life. You want to go to a man like Richard Cooper, who's had a very accomplished life, like myself, who's self-made, right? Those are the kind of guys you want to go to learn from. You want to be seven-figure baller. You want to get, you want to figure out how to actually live the life we talk about. These aren't like characters we're playing. This we like you said, we are the game. Like there's a girl in my bed waiting for me right now.
It's part of our personalities now.
It's just who we are, right? And we didn't become like a lot of these guys. Like they hack the algorithm and they become someone by turning on the camera, and that's how they get their clout, right? Like they become like this black pill superstar, and then they're like, oh yeah, like believe what I say, all because they like, they're not having sex and they know how to like check all the stuff on the computer to like hack the algorithm. But when you're a guy who's actually like having a sex life and doing these kind of things that most guys want to be doing with their life, one, typically, like when you were running through all those hoes in Cali and stuff, you weren't like, you didn't have like a group of guys that you're always like hanging out with, like, hey man, like this week let's go hang out. Or were you more lone wolf? I'm a lone wolf in Tokyo. I hang out with Charlie.
Maybe the guys who were in my band back then. That was about it. Like a group of maybe,
because you had to hang out with them because you're in the band. But other than that, like these guys got all the guys that I know that are consistently getting like pussy on a regular basis. They're usually lone wolves because what do they need? You're gonna go hang out with somebody or go fucking hang out with some girl that's gonna blow you fucking here to kingdom come.
This is a interesting one. What do you guys say to the notion that women are more masculine due to the fact that they no longer have to put up with mistreatment from men, cheating, financial abuse, etc.?
Where the hell did you get that shit from?
Where are you getting that from? But I will say this is that I think that I would argue that women are more masculine now because they're looking for security. They can't find the dominant alpha guy. Not all women get with that. Like I know Myron says this all the time, but it's like, beauty is common and high value men are very rare right now. And he's not incorrect in that. Whether or not he is or anybody else is, that's up to speculation. But the concept is true. There are far more women than there are guys who are the top 20% guys. And I'm even being generous with the top 20%. Yeah. So I would argue this, and I've said before, is that women's primary agency in life is their sexuality. Okay, if we're going to use that as our premise, when do women have their peak sexual market value? Right around 22, 23 years old. So if you go from like about 18 to about 28, that 10-year window in a woman's life, and hopefully she lives a very long time, right? Maybe she lives to be 80 or 90 years old. That 10-year window is when she's going to be at her peak agency, where she can affect the course of the rest of her life as a result of who she can attract, who she can arouse, who she can draw into her attraction circle, and who she can get to commit and consolidate on her. Most women throw that away. It's capital. It's like sexual capital that they are given between the ages of 18 and 28 years old that they can either piss away or they can invest in a guy. Most women piss it away. They don't invest in a guy because they don't trust men. They don't trust guys to be anything except for doofy, ridiculous Homer Simpson archetypes, or the borderline abusive son of a bitch like their dad was when, every Father's Day, it's I hate my Father's Day. That's what it ends up being. It's Fatherless Day is what it ends up being, because that guy is borderline abusive and I never want to be like my old man. He's a son of a bitch, right? That's the other archetype. And then there's the incompetent archetype, which is, here's a kid who doesn't know how to change a flat tire. Here's a kid who doesn't know how to put on a necktie. Here's a kid who doesn't know the basic things to be a competent individual in Western societies, let's just say. And so those are really the three archetypes that women have. So when a guy comes along and he has dark triad traits and he seems to be self-important, he might not even have dark triad traits. He just has the behaviors of dark triad traits. And women are attracted to that because that guy is a source of long-term security. Because women understand on some level of consciousness that once 28 hits, the chuck wagon pulls out. The party is almost over. That's why I peg the epiphany phase between 29 and 31 years old. That's when the shit hits the fan. That's when you hear women say, where are the nice guys? How come I can't find a guy who wants to commit? They're so infantile. Men just want to get with these young little chippies and they don't want to have anything to do with a great, wonderful, well-developed woman who's just finished her journey of self-discovery at 29, 30, 31 years old. That's when you hear those social conventions, because they're looking for long-term security. Women need long-term security much longer in their lifetime than they do that short-term sexual that they're able to get between 18 and 28. So you're looking at a 10-year span, and let's just say the woman lives to be like 90 years old. 80 of those years are going to be spent dependent on a guy or dependent on a family in some way, shape, or form. So what happens? I can't trust men for that long-term security. I have to provide it for myself. I have to become the man. I have to be a business owner. I got to get my degree. I got to play the game. I got to get into male space. I got to do all this because I can't trust men to provide the long-term security that I'm going to need for the next 70 or 80 years. And so that affects what you want to know, why they're masculine and boss bitches and everything. That's what triggers that. They don't trust men, fundamentally don't trust men. And that right there is another effect of feminism. So when we're talking about, well, isn't feminism a net good or a net bad? They're definitely a net bad, because what it teaches is that men cannot be trusted, period.
Yeah, it's a demonization of men in the West, and it's all a scam. It's all the corporations that are all colluding together.
And then commercial interests come into that, so those social conventions.
Yeah,
because
anytime you see, listen, for all you guys, and I've been saying this for the longest, and I'm going to say this until I'm dead. Okay, when it comes down to every women's movement, okay, it's always tied to getting more money out of the women and more votes, one or the other, if not both. And so the whole women being so masculine, they're masculinized through the media, they're masculinized through the education, they're masculinized through the culture. American women don't know how to be feminine. And especially, we're so far down the road with the generations, because the previous generations raising these women also came from broken divorce households. And so now it's the blind leading the blind. This is why all dudes, the majority of dudes in America, are either fat and or skinny, but they're both soy, right? Because why? Where is the dad? 50% of the households in America are divorced. And of the other 50% that are not divorced, out of that, How many guys have you seen in America, just a beaten down beta that is just a workhorse for his fat Walmart golem wife, right?
Hmm.
It is endless. You see this, like probably 20% of the families that are still together in America are led by a masculine man, if that. And then you're assuming he's not being a blue pill alpha, because the men too have been brainwashed by the culture, the consumerism, the ladies first crap. Japanese girls are they know the number one thing they associate American guys with is like, oh, he's a gentleman. You believe in ladies first, right? That's like what they say when they date with American guys over here.
Hmm. Yeah. So I just to sum this up, like when people say, well, why is it that evil is sexy? Well, because evil is powerful, or the association of it is anyways. It's like what we classically, archetypally think is good or evil. I mean, in this case, it's like Lucifer Morningstar, right? Or if it's whatever the character happens to be, that character, whether it's what's the guy in 50 Shades of Grey, like Christian Grey or whatever.
Christian Grey.
That guy, he's still in control. Right, he's still a multimillionaire. Bruce Wayne, right? Batman still has he's a multimillionaire, right? He still has the potential. Not only is he dark and sexy, but he is also has a potential for long-term security. Women need long-term security far more than they need than they are able, let's just say, to get short-term, good, fun, hot monkey sex with the guy that they want to have enthusiastic consent with, and they really want validational sex versus transactional sex. So when you look at, well, why is it that women want the guy who's Dark Triad? First of all, has a capacity for violence in our ancestral past. The best way to demonstrate high value DHV, kill another dude, more or less, end his life. And you go, oh, okay. Well, if the invading tribe comes in, this guy's already proven to me that he has a capacity for violence and he'll protect me. So there's that aspect. And then there's the fantasy belief that I'll be able to lock this guy down. Right. Yep. Because I still need security longer than I need, I'll use my sexual capital to ensure my long-term security. That's why Dark Triad is sexy. That's why the devil is sexy. That's why Batman, the Dark Knight, the vigilante is sexy. That's why they get hybristophilia, because and again, do women is this a conscious process for women? Absolutely not. This is, and I think that's one of the things, like when you and I when we talk about the red pill, or we talk about game or your dark past program and everything, again, it's sort of giving away the mechanics behind all of this so that guys can put it into practice and they can put it into use. Women lose their minds over that because they think that we're teaching guys who are not Dark Triad or who are not alpha to ape those behaviors and figure that stuff out. My response to this, and I'll let you go on this because I want you to give a description of it, but my response to this is that no, we're trying to give guys the skills and the tools so they can become that guy, so that they can become the game. They can internalize that. It becomes second nature to them.
I have a clip here from the course that I just want to play.
Okay.
And I just want the guys to pay attention to it. And you can understand this is how you're going to handle modern game. And this is exactly why I'm putting out the Dark Pass. This is why the Dark Pass came out earlier this morning, and I already have a bunch of signups. And we're going to have signups all the way until Monday at midnight. So,
and use my link to sign up.
Use ROLLO's link.
I'm actually doing this early this time. Usually I do this the night before the registration close. I tried to get my scheduling down for this one.
But I have this one queued up here. Just let me know when you're ready and put it on. We could go full screen.
Yeah, let me push this in here. There we go.
Okay. And then just take a look here, and I mean, we can break it down after.
Sure.
How to handle disrespect. Now, disrespect is going to be interpreted in this deep seduction philosophy as her violating your boundaries. Now, you there watching me right now, your boundaries are different than my boundaries. And if you're a man with no boundaries, good luck having success with women. You just might as well turn off this course and go be a doormat for the rest of your life, because nothing is ever going to work if you have no boundaries, okay? What a boundary is your standards for a relationship. For example, let's talk about something pretty common here in the modern day. a girl that is posting half naked photos of herself daily on Instagram after you have made it official that you are exclusively seeing each other, right? This is a common boundary not established in the modern day and age. Now, as a man, you are entitled to have these boundaries, okay? She is not entitled to you just bowing down to her and giving into her every whim. Because even if you do that, it's only a matter of time before she loses attraction and leaves you, okay? So you must have boundaries. Now, we're not saying here at the Dark Past that every woman must bow down and worship every single thing that you say. However, we are saying that if a woman wants special access to you, to the positive masculine experience that you're going to be providing to her, she has to abide by your boundaries, and that is 100% okay. Now, in a relationship, if the boundaries are not clearly stated in the beginning by you, the man, then you're going to have some trouble along the way. Now, the further the relationship goes, the stronger you will be able to establish your boundaries. But there is an absolute specific way that you must adhere to, which is the following. We're going to cover that right now. Okay. So first things first, the boundary is violated. Okay. As soon as the boundary is violated, you have to immediately notify her that the boundary was violated. Now, how you notify her is, for example, let's say she's messaging a guy friend, and she's going out with this guy and meeting him, right? And even though she's your girlfriend, she's always going out with this guy friend. And your internal compass just doesn't feel good about this. You're just like, oh, I just don't feel good about this. I don't like this whatsoever, right? You have to let her know in a calm and peaceful manner, because remember, we're not getting emotional at all. I'm going to say something along the lines of, hey, listen, I know you're going out with this guy friend of yours, and I'm really I don't agree with this, and I just don't like the way the situation is being handled right now, and it doesn't really make me feel good, right? Just very, very simple. And then you move to the next and most important stage. You ice her, okay? You just send that last message and you wait for compliance, all right? One of two things is gonna happen. Either she will not reply to you, not respond to you, which is a huge sign of disrespect on her end. This is her basically saying, I don't care about what you think. And now you know where this woman stands in your life, and you should definitely lower her priority in your life, if not completely get rid of her, okay? Or wait for her to contact and apologize. Or wait for her to reach out with an olive branch saying, hey, can we talk? Okay, what's going on? I didn't know you felt like this, okay? The more the girl is into you and the more she likes you, the more sincere and the faster this is going to happen, okay? If she's on the fence about you or she doesn't respect you as much, don't be surprised for a week to go by, a couple days to go by, to hear absolutely nothing for her. And sometimes they'll reach out to you in a sense of like, oh, hey, you know, I was looking at blenders and I wanted to know your opinion on the Ninja versus the not Ninja, right? What this woman is really doing is reaching out to you, trying to communicate, saying like, hey, I want to talk. I understand that there was a prior issue. I felt the lack of your presence. I didn't like the way it feels, so I'm attempting to come back into your life. This is a great stage. This shows that she is falling deeper into your frame and that your dark seduction is absolutely working. When she comes back, you communicate, you clarify the boundary, okay? If you do not clarify the boundary is going to get violated again, and you're going to go through this whole pattern again and again and again, and each time that you go through it and you don't reestablish your firm boundaries, you're going to lose her, because she's going to lose respect for you, and if she loses respect for you, she can't love you. If she can't love you, she doesn't want to be with you, okay? So clarify the boundary, all right? After the boundary is clarified, you guys have the makeup sex, everything's good, she loves you, but baby, I love you too, I can't be without you, right? All is fine and dandy in the world. Then you go back and you resume your seduction, you resume your plan, okay? Now, if this is done correctly, the number of times your boundaries are going to be violated, it will go down. It will absolutely go down. If you effectively establish this clearly and masculinely in her eyes, when you immediately notify her of the boundary being broken here, if you throw a temper tantrum, do childish stuff like unfollow her on Instagram, block her on Facebook, make passive aggressive posts like, oh, you know, if a woman really loves you, she shouldn't have any guy friends. Do little things like this. It's childish, it's anti-seductive, and you're quickly just opening the door for your own exit, okay? But if this is effectively communicated and effectively reinforced by you, you don't bow down to her, because some women will test you. Some women will be like, well, you know, it's 2021 and I should be able to have male friends. But yeah, you can have those male friends, but you won't have me, because this is my boundary. Calmly communicate like that. And if she walks, she walks. You on to the next one. Most women, if you have money, muscles, game, frame, you're providing that masculine, positive, protective atmosphere for her. Most women, believe you me, they'll throw their belief system right out the wall, right out the door for a man like that. So you'll see, as you reinforce this, less boundaries will be violated, and this circle will become less frequent. However, the opposite is absolutely true. If you do not establish your boundaries, the frequency of this cycle, especially this point here, boundaries being violated, this will increase, the intensity will increase, and eventually she's going to leave you. So it's up to you as a man to handle disrespect in a very strategic, non-emotional manner. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next module.
Cool. So that's part of it, right? That's one of the modules.
So that's one of the 61 modules that are in there.
That's a lot, man. You did a lot of work on this. I didn't realize how much you did on this.
You know, it's funny. Everybody says that when they say it. So I'll give you guys just a quick rundown of what they get in the actual video component. So that right there is just only the video component as well. There's the training sessions that are in Zoom done live, and that starts on September 1st to September 10th. So you could take a look at the curriculum here. It's on the screen, so you can see these are all the modules right here in regards to understanding what is actually working with seduction and what doesn't work, right? Little things down to like how to use your phone, understanding her trauma, dark escalation and trauma navigation, indoctrination regimen. I mean, you name it, we got it on here. And then we have the female archetype seduction guides. We released the first set of them for the members because we're having a really, really focused approach to this educational course. And we released the first section of the girls. There are 27 of these modules. Right now, the first ones have been released, and then they're going to be released over the next couple of days as well. Because I don't want guys going in there clicking right away, going to the girls, like, just let me see the girls, you know. I want you to watch the more important stuff. And then you'll get access to the Telegram chat immediately. You also get access to the webinars starting September 1st. That's where you really get the hardcore education. I do have an example of the profiling we've done for the girls as well in regards to these the breakdowns. So, but what did you think of that? Did you think
I thought it was pretty good. I thought that was it's a good break. It's a good, I like the whiteboard aspect of it. I like being able to see that, I think a lot of guys are starting to lean towards that. I know George Gammon has done whiteboard stuff for a while now, just to sort of explain things. It's very instructional, right? I mean, it's like being in a class, and I think that's honestly, I think that's what a lot of guys are looking for right now.
Yeah.
I want to throw this on here real quick because I get this all the time. Dan says this, like, who cares, right? What women do or what they want. Like, concentrate on yourself, do what you want. Like, that's it. Just so much wasted energy talking about fucking women, right? Well, the thing is that why not both? First of all, and then second of all, if that's all you're about, is focusing on what is that? First of all, what does that mean? And then second of all, is you get to a point where you've concentrated on yourself and you've made yourself into something. Then you are blindsided, or you're taking, women take advantage of you, or they're opportunely, you marry Brittany Renner, right? Because you are focusing on yourself. You're PJ Washington, right? You didn't know. You can't be blamed for that, right? But then what happens is when the shit hits the fan, you should have known. Like, everybody's, oh, he should have known. He's an idiot, right? Well, because you were focusing on yourself. You didn't understand women's nature. You didn't understand intersexual dynamics. That's why this shit is valuable. That's why you should also understand this. And I don't see why you can't say, I'm concentrating on myself. And as part of me concentrating on myself, I also want to understand intersexual dynamics. I know I'm not going to be taken advantage of once I become the best version of myself because I didn't know any different.
Yeah, no, I'll just tell you this right now. That guy's a fool. No offense. Because when some super hot girl comes up to you after you've become a 6-figure champ, 7-figure, whatever, and you don't, the thing is, when you become more rich and more powerful, more successful, the quality of women and the stronger their game is come after you. And you're so dumb. You think, oh, she just likes me because I'm a good person. I'll get her pregnant. I'll sign this contract. The next thing you know, you're paying her $200,000 a month in child support, like this NBA star.
Right. You want to know why? You want to know why what Myron and Fresh did pissed us off so much? You want to know why they need some discipline too, or they need to have some tough love at least? They should have fucking known better.
Yeah,
they should have known better than this. That's why you focus and understand the nature of women. And if you're going to make stupid mistakes like that, at least you can say, hey, I saw it coming. Like you did. It's not like you weren't educated. It's not like you didn't know this. Imagine this. Imagine you've got a guy like Fresh and he's driving around in a McLaren. He's got iced up watches and everything else. And he gets taken to the cleaners because some chick gave him, false paternity, charges or something like that, or went through this. Now, it's different if he already knew that, right? It's like PJ Washington. Well, you should have seen it. It was right there in front of you. How come you didn't know that? Well, because you didn't understand the nature of women. So are you blameless, or is she the one that took you to the cleaners, right? It's different if you know intersexual dynamics, and that doesn't come just naturally by osmosis, right? Like most guys have to learn social skills today. That's really what game is at least in the beginning, is understanding social intelligence, understanding your nature, her nature, and the nature of intersexual dynamics. That is not something that just you're born with. That's not just it's not part of your operating system. So that's the difference.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
But going back to what I was talking about here, that's what this course teaches people, right? Like I said, even Myron and them, they didn't understand the dangers of this kind of text game that he was sending out. And another thing, he didn't understand the type of chick that this was. Like, you and I saw her and we realized, okay, this chick is a psycho. And you should, this is like that vindictive, fatal attraction type. She'll boil your rabbit and he'll leave you to find it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I think that with what we have here in the Dark Pass as well, we provide people with a full profile. I have one more I want to show you. This is the second half of what the profiles look like.
Okay.
And this is exactly what we have here. You could take a look at this breakdown. You can go full screen if you want, Rollo. Take a look here. We have 27 of these provided for you guys.
The wine bar girl. Now, the wine bar girl might be a grown-up version of a party girl, or she could be an older version of various other archetypes. She's probably tired of going on endless one-night stands, and she knows she's past her sexual prime. She's usually 26 or above, all the way up to maybe 35, and she sees the prime of her youth slipping away. She no longer gets as many eyes looking at her as she's walking down the street. Not as many people are trying to hit her up, take her out, and she feels this every day slightly decreasing. So she's set on maximizing the dates she still can get, angling for wine bars, tapas, steak dinners, sushis, etc. She's engaged in quantitative easing of the vagina, aka printing more currency in a desperate effort to save her sexual market value. She tries to pawn off the older and less prime version of herself for more money, time, and dates than she used to give out when she was in her late teens and early 20s, when she might be more likely to put out on the first day you meet her, because she simply didn't care. She knew she was valuable, she has high sexual market value, so she doesn't need to worry about artificially waiting longer to sleep with a guy. But now that she's in her mid to late 20s or early 30s, she's quote unquote smarter, quote unquote more woke. She is actually usually a better conversationalist, but she tends to think a bit too highly of herself, and also what sort of price tag she can demand. So she artificially tries to purposefully wait to sleep with the guy. SNL potential. It's a medium. You might be able to catch her and quickly whisk her off to your place the same night, especially if you meet her out, on the same day. She's had a couple of drinks. She's maybe said goodbye to the guy who she's trying to make wait. If you swoop in at the right time and the right moment after she's had her daily fun meter filled up, yeah, it could go down that same day. However, she's often in the habit of dragging out the sex until the second date or later, once she gets enough whining and dining and disqualifies enough guys who don't meet all of her criteria. And I should mention those criteria tend to increase the older she gets and get more arbitrary as well. Chances are she'll hold out a bit before letting you hit. LTR desirability. She actually does want an LTR and will often mention this frequently. However, the question you should ask is, do you want an LTR with her, a relationship with her? She will generally be pretty accommodating and intelligent, and if she still has enough humility and femininity left, she can make a good long-term relationship. But unfortunately, some of them are spoiled too much by male attention and increased standards for a worse quote-unquote product. If she's on the younger side, she's good for a relationship, but once they cross the big 3-0, they tend to decrease in desirability and increase in demands. So your effort will probably be spent looking for one of the other archetypes. Parental instinct. Overall, they tend to want to have a serious relationship, get married, and have kids. Some might not, but the tendency is there. Once locked into a relationship and on the path to children, make sure to keep control of the relationship and don't let her take over, as these girls can be a bit domineering. They are, after all, used to stringing guys along for several dates and asserting themselves over time. And chances are, again, if she's spending all her time on these nice dates, she's probably going out with some reasonably successful guys. So she's used to most of the games guys play, and she tends to know her way around these sort of relationships. So you have to make sure to maintain your frame and control in the relationship. Loyalty. If she's determined you're a good mate, she will actually tend to be more loyal than the younger or more free girls who, they're used to messing around. And she'll tend to do this because, well, she's been there before. And so in that sense, yeah, she's reasonably loyal. Maintenance level. Depending on the quality of whining and dining she's used to, she can actually be quite high maintenance. At the same time, she does know in the back of her mind she only has a few more years of youth before looks really start to fall off, so she will try to be a model girlfriend most of the time. However, you might have to temper her expectations a bit as to how much, again, whining, dining she's going to get with you if you're not into that kind of thing. And pressure point. Her pressure point is her age. She knows her age and her beauty are on the decline. And this is why she's trying to maximize, again, the amount of dates that she goes on, the amount of nice dates that she goes on before she fears she might end up with a less attractive guy than the ones she's slept with in the past.
There you go.
There you go. There's your girls on a turntable. I like how it's like, choose your fighter, choose your character.
Yeah. Well, you know, like I said, it's like these guys, like I said, there's 27 of those archetypes that are included in the course, plus the 2 hours and 45 minutes of pre-recorded content, plus the 20 hours of live Zoom training, right? So all of that, but we're closing registration on Monday at midnight because we have to get the classes started on September 1st. So from September 1st to September 10th, we're going to get in there with the webinars and get the ball rolling.
Yep. Good. Have you ever, you know what this reminded me of was there was an old post by Royce way back in the day, and he did a, I think it was the difficulty of game by age bracket, I think. And it was like 18 to 23, and then it was 23 to 30. And then it was like, and it was a really, I mean, very early version of what you're doing here, but it was, it's fascinating to see how like, this is like a little bit more, I think this is more detailed than certainly anything he went into back then. But I loved reading that because it was like, it became inspiration for my second book, which was Preventive Medicine, because guys wanted to know what to expect from women at different age brackets. And so that's what I did. I made that timeline. And that's honestly, I think that's probably one of the unsung heroes of the 4-part series of that will soon to be 5-part series of The Rational Male. But thanks for coming on here, and thanks for giving us the lowdown on all this. I hope you guys got something out of this today. I think you did. This was actually a really good, it's always a good conversation when it's just me and you on here. And what else do you have planned that's going on? I know you've been doing these sort of simulcast things for Fresh and Fits occasionally when things go down. And then of course you're on Rule Zero with us, which will be Saturday at Troy Francis is supposed to be hosting. I hope he's still on for that. So
I'll be live streaming every day in the month of August on my channel. Just go to Modern Space Life Space Dating, and I need 13 more subscribers to get to 15,000 subscribers. So help me get to that 15,000 mark.
There you go.
And I mean, it's just, you know, people call me the hardest working man in the manosphere. I'm live streaming every single day on my channel, and I'm doing my best to help guys. Every Friday, you can call me on my channel, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do free consultation Friday, and I answer all your guys' questions, money, muscles, game, frame, whatever it is. Teach you how to make a 7-figure business, cryptocurrency. I'm your one-stop shop on how to become a better man.
There you go.
I'm your one-stop shop, and it's funny. Like I said, we talked about it. July, I did Inner Game July. Talk about like all the inner game components you need, all the things you need to heal your traumas, and how to become a healthier man and stronger man and better in life. Lowest viewership in the history of my channel. Cover Fresh and Fit drama, record-breaking numbers.
Number 1, record-breaking numbers. Yep, I know. 100,000 views. I saw that too, man. As soon as I did that, it's like like people coming out of the woodwork. For people who want to know, it's like, are we critical of Fresh and Fit? Absolutely, we have to be. In fact, we do it not because we're like trying to be assholes or just jump on the grift there. It's because these guys are friends of ours, and they have to be held accountable, and we have been holding them accountable. But furthermore, guys like Abba and Preach and the rest of these guys who are all in coordination, who all decided that they wanted to come in and attack all at the same time. They smell blood in the water. They ain't clean either. So that's why I keep saying, the manosphere is just this big shit stew right now, and it stinks to high heaven. But there's still a lot of value in the manosphere. There's still a lot of value in the red pill, and you have to look for things like this, like this show, like your show, like this program, gloss ourselves, but I think we're Rule Zero, and everybody was a part of that too. So look for where the quality is. Be critical. And I know that's a real tough sell these days because everybody wants red meat, but that's really basically how it goes. And goodbye once again. The rational male. Yeah. Keep impersonating me. Right. Yeah. Please do. Please keep wasting your time. Please make more accounts. I enjoy just ditching your stuff. Right.
So funny.
Yeah. And that's the degree of hate, right? That's the degree of, remember, I know Rich always says this, hate always comes from below, but you know what? Hate comes from within. It's not the outside people who are trying to tear down the red pill. It's not, oh, what are we going to do? Rabid feminists are going to say that the manosphere is really shit. No, it's not them. It's the people from within the manosphere, not the people outside. It's the people on the inside. I've never been doxxed, and I'm sure you haven't ever been doxxed by some rabid gynocentric feminist, but you have been doxxed from guys on the inside. You have been doxxed from black pill guys. You have been doxxed from people who are quote unquote manospherians. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That happens all the freaking time. So, all right, guys, thanks for this. And I hope you guys learned something. If you want to get registered for the Dark Pass, you can go and have the very first link in my description right there is how you can sign up for it. If you have any questions, I'm sure Jon would be more than happy to answer them via text or via hit him up in his chat. Go watch it. Sign up. He needs more. He just needs a few more subscriptions to get to 15,000. Right?
Yep. I think we just hit it on your show. We're at 15,000.
There we go. All right.
1506. Thank you guys. We'd made history.
All right, man. I will see you on Saturday. Peace.